Today's episode is a conversation with Katy Mann. Now, if you live in Indianapolis and have children, Katy has probably already impacted your life in a positive way. You see, more than a dozen years ago, she started this little website to help fill in a gap in the Indianapolis parenting community, and you've probably heard of it. IndyWithKids.com. That little website has grown quite a bit since then, and I'm sure many will agree that Indy with Kids is the go-to place for things to do in Indianapolis with kids. Now Katy has taken a major step in providing another much-needed resource to families in Indianapolis. She's written a book. It's called Indianapolis Scavenger, the ultimate search for Indianapolis's hidden treasure. And Katy is here today to talk about this exciting new adventure on the Matt Dan Toddcast. Welcome to the Matt Dan Toddcast podcast. I'm your host, Matt, the guy with 3 first names and a face made for podcasting. But you can call me Matt Dan Todd for short. Hi, Katy. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so excited to be able to discuss you and your work today and what you're doing. I've known you for quite a while. We've run into each other quite a bit, as I explained earlier. But how about before we get any further, one question I always like to ask everyone is, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay. My name's Katy, and I grew up in Southern California and accidentally landed a permanent stay in Indianapolis, Indiana by way of marriage. But it has turned out to be the perfect place for myself to bloom and to have a family. And then I just really actually love this city and this state. So I created a family events and activities website called Indy with Kids in hopes of connecting families with activities for their kids, whether it's something free and low cost or something that fits in the budget that they have, no matter what that is, from high end to low end, and to kind of help local businesses get the word out about what they have, because we found with a lot of the things that were available to families that if we didn't use them, we lost them, and we've lost some really cool programs in our area over the past couple of years just because people didn't know about them. So that's been my work for the last 14 years. I have 4 children between the ages of 7 and 13, and a very supportive husband who has helped me along the way. We have on our staff of Indy with Kids, we have 8 on our business team and about 20 contributors at this time.
Wow.
But it started out with just me, and it was me for a very long time, and it's just been fabulous. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else in either my professional life, my family life, or even geographically.
Wow. 14 years of a blog, and well, more than a blog now, right? But
Yeah.
that in and of itself is pretty impressive. So congratulations on that, Katy. And
Yeah.
then throw in a large family like you have and an active family like you have. And holy cow, you're busy all the time,
Yeah.
right?
I couldn't do it alone. I'll tell
No,
you.
no.
It couldn't sustain with just me, and it's been neat to add just rich voices from all over the city, different moms and dads with backgrounds that are different from mine, with interests and children that are different from mine, and it's just really added to the tapestry of the website.
Well, it's indywithkids.com, and it really is an amazing resource, and we use it all the time, even though most of my kids are grown, but I still, even last week I used your state resources. Christy and I were were planning. Actually, she put me in charge of planning something for us to do while she was on spring break, and I was at a loss of what to come up with. And I visited one of your lists of 100 things to do, and we did several, and it was great. So
Oh,
thank
good.
you.
Can you tell
Um,
us the things
well, it
you did?
was So chatty. We visited
Yes.
and oh my gosh, their chocolate was amazing, amazing. And uh, I we kind of went there not quite on a whim because I did plan it, but still not entirely sure what to think about it. But we'll be back for sure. We're going to go back and do one of the tours, and just the people we met were great, and it was just a great time. And then I think you also mentioned Punch Bowl Social in that, and we hadn't been to Punch Bowl, so that was fun as well. So you kind of helped plan our morning because
Yeah,
we had to be
awesome.
back
Yeah,
early. But yeah,
yeah,
so
those are
thanks.
awesome places that I agree, and both of those would also be good to take your family.
Yeah,
So, you
exactly.
family date night or couples date night or friend night
Yeah.
even.
Yeah, and I've already told someone else about So Chatty and told them to look at your page about more ideas.
You.
And I think they're going this weekend. So that's another conversation for another time. We're here to talk about another resource that you have created, that is due to launch soon. Of course, if you're listening to it after the fact, that's okay too. You can still use this resource. Katie, why don't you go ahead and tell us about this other thing that you've added to your list of all kinds of amazing things that you've done.
Yes, so I wrote a book. It's been a lifelong dream of mine. This isn't the book I dreamed about, but I am so glad that I did it. It stretched me in ways that I never imagined, and I got to know our city even better. But I wrote a book called Indianapolis Scavenger, and it's the first scavenger hunt book for the Indianapolis area. It focuses on 19 different Indianapolis neighborhoods. There are way more neighborhoods that I would have liked to have covered, but I was limited by a formula that the
Right.
publisher has because this is a part of a series. These books are available for other cities as well.
Uh,
Um, so there's over 300 hidden in plain sight gems that you can find scattered throughout 19 different neighborhoods. It's kind of like a walking neighborhood guide. So you arrive at the neighborhood that you'd like to explore that day. You open the book to that page and there's a little photograph, and then there's also a clue that's in rhyming form. So 4-line rhyme. Which I am not a poet. So this is where I say it's not the book I dreamed,
yeah.
and it definitely stretched me, but it actually ended up being really fun. It was hard work. The finished product, though, I'm super happy with. But so you have this 4-line rhyme or riddle to help you discover this thing, and the rhyme might include directions to help you find it, or it might include a little bit of history or story so that you can learn more about the point that you're looking for. It could be a restaurant, it could be a historic site, it could be a piece of public art, but each one shares a story that make our city and that neighborhood especially unique.
I love this. And I love that you were stretched with that too, because the idea of making it rhyme in poetry form, just I think I would have nightmares about that. I would probably wake up. I tend to when uh, I think everyone that listens to this knows that my day job, do a lot of writing, right? For a pretty prominent institution in the Indianapolis area, and I do wake up every once in a while thinking about how to make certain things fit, but nothing as complex um, as making them rhyme, and then also making it rhyme in just for making it all the information come out in just four sentences as well.
It
I
was a
just
challenge.
yeah.
Yes. It was probably, I would say, one of the biggest challenges of my life, professional career so far, especially with deadlines. It was very difficult. It was hard work. And the last month was especially hard because, like you thought you had all this time and I didn't plan it out properly with my time because not only you can't just talk to anybody. They would say, "Oh yeah, Katy
Right.
knows
Yeah.
Indianapolis." Like, you want to know something about Indianapolis? Talk to Katy. I know nothing about our city. I
Oh.
mean, I would say I know more now,
Mhm.
but it actually left me with so many more questions and so many more places that I want to explore. I told you there's 19 neighborhoods in there and that there's so many more neighborhoods in our area. Like for
Mhm.
instance, around our children's museum, I would love, I think we're going to actually use this as an add-on that if you pre-purchase the book or you send me an email, we're going to have an extra chapter so that you can explore around the children's museum
Oh,
area,
cool.
especially in that building because or around that building because I just love around that area. You know, obviously we have the big dinosaur coming out of the building. We have the little one going into the building. We've
Mhm.
got the Seven Wonders garden. There's so
Mhm.
many things around that building and in that immediate neighborhood, but I couldn't put that into the book because we ran out of space, we ran out of time, and then
Right.
really there weren't 20 things that I could identify right there at that time.
Right.
So but then there's other historic neighborhoods in our city that really deserve to be in a book like this. And so, you know, maybe version 2 or maybe part
Yeah. You
2 or even if you visit the website, maybe we'll just have some extra chapters on there if I can put myself back into the mode of rhyming
Yeah,
because I shut that off. I mean, the minute like that's something I had to really work hard to turn on, and now it is turned off.
there's no muscle memory there, right?
Oh,
You're
it is
done. You're done.
done. Oh my gosh, when I was done, I was just exhausted. I mean, there was this like just I was done.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
when
I
they
can
would come
imagine.
back to me for rewrites, luckily our editors were really good at providing suggestions because my biggest nightmare is that they were gonna come back to me with rewrites and ask me to, like, try to come up with different rhymes, and
Oh,
I was
goodness.
done.
Yeah.
I was just done. So
Yeah. Wow. Okay, you mentioned we'll talk about it at the end as well, but you mentioned pre-buying the book or sending you an email. Why don't you go ahead and give us the information about how we can get our hands on this and the extra chapter as well?
yes. So you can purchase Indianapolis Scavenger through Target.com, BarnesandNoble.com, Amazon.com, and hopefully through your neighborhood bookstore, your local
Okay.
bookstore coming up starting May 1st. So if you're listening to this after May 1st, it should be available to you. I'm hoping to get it into our local museums. I know that the publisher is working really hard on that because it is very local interest. But you can definitely purchase that online at all of your major book retailers. And then if you are interested in getting that extra chapter, just send me a message on any of the Indie with Kids social media and I will get that to you as soon as it's ready. Just let me know. Send me a copy of your receipt to show that you purchased the book and I'll get you that extra chapter.
Cool. And all of your socials are indie with kids,
Indie
correct?
with
Okay.
Kids. Yep, you
Yeah,
can find me there and just say, "Hey, I bought the book. Here's my receipt. Here's a picture of it. Please send me the extra chapter and we'll get that ready for you."
that's awesome. I'm looking forward to that as well. That'll be great. So, um, as we mentioned earlier, you are quite busy. You already were busy, and then you added this. Yes, it was fulfilling a dream that you've always had. It's probably a dream that I've only recently been willing to say out loud as well. So I get that wanting to publish a book, but how on earth did you make it fit in your busy schedule?
Oh man. So that's always the question. Like, how
Yeah,
can you make one more thing fit in there? So I had a lot of help. Obviously having so many children, we tr- and of course, like the due dates fit right during their fall sports schedules.
of course, of course.
So it was really difficult. But I had a lot of help from like my in-laws who would take the kids for a few hours, from my husband who would just keep them away from me, through our team at Indie with Kids who filled in extra for me those months, and worked, you know, doubly hard to take over my share of the work. Just from people who were supportive and encouraging. I think just like when you're exhausted and you're tired, and then for people to just say like, "Hey, I heard you're working on this project. That's really cool." Like that just kind of gives you like this little more energy to know that people are looking forward to it and that they're going to support you. So somehow I found an extra hour in
Yeah.
just that like little boost from people. But I just had to like prioritize it.
Uh,
And it did mean that things like cleaning the house fell on the back burner,
oh,
and they still be falling on the back
that's
burner. I don't
that's okay. No judgment here.
know.
That's a
But
great excuse, right? To not have to clean the
yeah,
house.
right, exactly. It's not that I really was able to add something in.
Yeah.
I really had to edit other things out of it to fit it in.
Well, and that sounds like a lot of, like you mentioned, it's a lot of things, right? If you're going to choose to do something else.
And now I
Yeah.
want to write another one.
Ah,
So this
okay.
one's not even on the shelves yet. I'm assuming it's gonna sell well. It may not, but I already feel this. I don't want to write another rhyme one. I really don't. Um, but I already have tons of ideas for books that I'd love to write, and I've already began pitching some ideas to people. So I'm really hoping to have a second book out within the next, I don't know, 12 months, or at least have it, off to the publisher.
So
So
everyone heard that. Everyone heard that. Stay tuned.
I know,
Stay
it's
tuned.
very addicting, like, once you realize, like, "You know what? I can do this."
Yeah.
I think it gives you this empowerment to do it again and do
Yeah.
it more, and it's like with everything in life, if you can finally run a mile, you're like, "Okay, I can run 1 mile, eventually I can run 2, so why can't I write 2 books,
Yeah.
or 3 or 4?" So, and I'd like to write something different. There's, I mentioned, like, growing up, I actually thought that I would write fiction. So that's not what I'm looking at right now, because now I've got this, travel
Yeah.
and tourism and local situation that I really have enjoyed.
You've
Um
kind of got that niche pretty down pretty
Yeah.
well.
Or, so many people grew up during that time, and, were children or very young adults, and now they're out and they want to see like, what is this city all about? And
Right.
this book is for them. This book is for families who, maybe it's summer vacation and you just want to go do one neighborhood, today. Let's go see if we can find these
Right.
things. And it's going to take you fun places like maybe an ice cream shop, which would be a great place to take a little break during your scavenger hunt, have some ice cream. There's so many places that it's going to take you, and you'll have fun having your kids help you figure this out.
And with so many neighborhoods, it's not just a one day thing, right? You're
Oh
not going to
no,
accomplish this in one day. It's going to be impossible. And so it's a
I would say impossible.
continuing resource. Yeah, that's
Yes.
awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
Um, uh, I, I really am happy to hear you say that it's addicting, right? Just because it's something that you tried and you did, and now you want to do it again. Uh, I'll be honest. There's 4 book ideas I have floating around in my head that I've had floating around in my head probably for 15 years. Right. Every once in a while they pop back up, and I'm like, oh yeah, I should write that. And the thing that has uh, given me pause every time, and even with this whole podcasting thing and wanting to interview, is I don't want the first one to suck, right? I don't want the first one to be awful, because if that was the one that I thought would be, my great American novel or whatever, or if I'm interviewing you and it's going to stink, I just don't want to do a disservice to either my dream or to my interview with my person. But what I'm getting from you is to just do it, right? To
Just
just
do it.
just give it a try and do it. And maybe the worst thing that'll happen is you'll be out some time and energy.
And yeah, and that's the thing is I told you there was a formula to this one because it's part of a series. So I sort of lucked into this, and was the right person in the right place for this book. I was familiar with this particular publisher. I knew a lot of friends who'd written for this publisher, and I ran into this publisher at a conference that I was at, and I said, "Hey, I have this book I want to write. I write about things to do with your kids in Indianapolis. Do you have anything, a series that I could write about that?" And they said, "No, we don't have anything like that, but we have this other book. Would you be interested?" And I said, "Well, let me think about it." And I thought, well, if I don't write this, someone else is going to write it,
Right.
And why wouldn't I be the right person? And I'm in the right place. So why not? And so I thought, well, this is a great like foot in the door, and maybe I can write this one, really stretch myself, and then I can, see about other books that I'm interested in writing. And so I was lucky that in this case, there was a formula that I could follow. And
Mhm.
this publisher is so good. They had their deadlines, they had this is how we want it. And then when I would submit it, it was like, okay, hey, here's also what we need, and here's the next step. And so they really kind of walked me along in that. But then there's also some really cool ways that you can self-publish now. And that is not strange. That is not weird. And there's a lot of success that people find in that. And especially with like digital marketing being so easy that you can
Mhm.
market yourself digitally now, and really push that out to your network. And there's no reason why self-publishing wouldn't be an option to look at. So I know it's an option that I'm looking at for future opportunities. And there's so many ways to do it. So you can go with, a formula within a series, you can go with a publisher who can walk you through it. You can self-publish. There's so much.
Cool. Yeah, it's we live in quite a time that there's all these resources available, and so that's pretty exciting. Do you have a sample to read? Is there one that you could share
Oh,
with us?
oh goodness. I'm going to share with you a clue. This is going to be a big giveaway. So if you're going to buy the book, this is going to help you out. But I did a whole chapter on the Crown Hill Cemetery, and
Cool.
I just love Crown Hill. It is a fantastic place to hang out. I know that's an odd thing to say about a cemetery, but it's full of so much history. It's basically like a museum. And so it was probably one of my favorite chapters to write. But in the cemetery, we have I guess it's the second highest point in Indianapolis, which
Oh,
is where James Whitcomb Riley's grave is.
mhm.
And so here's the poem that I wrote for his grave. And I don't know if this is the edited version, but I'm just going to give you the one that I wrote.
A poem written for James Whitcomb Riley is kind of, well,
I know.
poetic, right?
Just maybe, I don't know. All right. It's odd to write a ditty for a famous
Oh,
poet's grave. It rests on top of the hill where coins are dropped and saved. He wove words like music, fair tales told in verse and rhymes, beloved by kids who gave pennies, nickels, and dimes. So you'll have to go up there to see it, because then you'll understand what I'm saying about the coins and the
mhm.
pennies and the nickels and the dimes. There's a little story there. So it's just kind of a clue. And if you go up there, you'll understand more about what that's about.
Cool. That's really cool, and it piques your interest and makes you want to go explore all of these neighborhoods, right?
I hope so.
Yeah,
I really hope
yeah.
so.
Well, I think this is not only a tremendous resource for families, but just for the city of Indianapolis in general. And you've been that since day one, and so it's just natural for it's a natural extension. This book is a natural extension of what you've already been doing, and I really appreciate that. So congratulations to you,
Well, thank
Katie, on that. So you're going to write another book. We're going to come back in a year, and we're going to talk about your next book, right?
Yes, please.
Yeah. How about you go ahead and tell us one more time about how we can get your book? What the website you just tell us.
All right. You can definitely purchase Indianapolis Scavenger on Amazon.com, Target.com, BarnesandNoble.com, and hopefully at your local bookstore, including Indie Reads, which is a great local bookstore here. And we'll also have it for sale through IndieWithKids.com. There's also going to be some local book signings. I'm going on a book tour, which, since it's a book in Indianapolis, is only local. Uh, the the least far away book tour ever, where I'll be doing book signings. So if you'd like to get it autographed, if you want some clues, if you want to go immediately out and explore that neighborhood where we have the book signings, we'll have those books available for you. So indiewithkids.com will have all that information. And but you can find all of that on, and don't forget to please go mark right now on Goodreads that you're interested in reading Indianapolis Scavenger, so we can get
Okay.
that built up there. Go tag it that that's a book you're wanting to read.
Okay, I will make sure to add that to the show notes as well. I'll link to your Goodreads page. And everyone go mark that you want to read it. And then once you've read it, give it a great review, right? Because publishers love those. Those are great. Um, and it's all about the review, right? Um,
Exactly.
well, I will be first in line for one of those book tours. Once that's established, we'll be excited to see you and celebrate what you've done. Because that's really exciting. We're really excited for you. This is an amazing accomplishment, and thank you for sharing it with my little world, my little podcasting world, but also the uh, the whole world in general. Because Indianapolis, for generations, Indianapolis had a reputation of just, well, nap town, right?
Right,
But
right.
it's not, and I think resources like the ones you provided for years um, kind of help lessen that stigma, right? And change the reputation of Indianapolis as a real place that's a vibrant community and a place that's great to live in. So thank you for that. From the bottom of my Indianapolis loving heart to you, thank you for all that you've done and continue to do for the community.
Right back at you, and thanks
Yeah.
for having me for your podcast.
Thank you so much for this, Katie. And everyone, go buy her book. And if you're in an Indianapolis area bookstore and they don't have it, how about you ask them to get it?
Yes, please.
Thanks for listening today. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite listening platform. We'll see you next time. The Matt Dan Toddcast podcast is brought to you by me, Matt. Theme song by Paul Uden.